Hello. Hi. How are we? Let me pause this music for a minute. Hello. Welcome. I hope everybody is doing well today. I am here. that's about the best way I can put it. I'm still kind of out of sorts, but yeah, I took last week off and um holy crap, my brain just died on me. Yeah, I'm having some issues with some medication, but I'm here and we're gonna work on our community choice page. Um, I know I didn't like let you guys know until like after the fact what was happening last week. It was just kind of one of those like I wanted to be here and I wanted to stream. Um, but I just like physically I got down to about like 45 minutes before I was scheduled to start on Tuesday and I was like I just can't. And then I was like we'll reschedule it to Thursday. And then I got to Thursday and I was just still not quite with it and I'm still kind of struggling, but we have a project and we need to start on this project. So you guys voted on this, and this would have actually been my pick if I could vote. It was between for me. It was between this one and the crab Mr. Krabs barber underwater page. So I'm glad this one won because I actually have I think I actually have an idea for it. So, hi Sonia, hi Cheryl. I hope you guys are doing well. Um, yeah, so let me open up to the page we're going to work in. Please ignore this page over on the other side. Uh, that is from like forever ago. I think I was experimenting with gouache and yeah, we're just going to ignore that. Maybe someday I'll come back to that one and try and see if I can salvage it, but that is not the page that we're working on today. So, gosh, why am I zoomed in so? So, my kid was actually sitting at my desk playing games, and I feel like some things got messed with. So, let me move my microphone over so it is closer to where I want it to be. So, I am trying to decide. I feel like I have an idea for this, but um it will require some creative liberties. Let me move this out of the way here since I'm going to be on this side of the book. So, I was trying to decide whether or not some of these like smaller lines and whatnot up here are supposed to be part of like leaves on the trees, and then there's bushes down here. That kind of threw me because if I was going to put a sky in here of some sort, I was not quite sure how I was going to go about that. And if I do what I'm thinking and make this kind of like a sunset or more evening, most of these trees are going to be kind of like dark and blacked out anyways. So kind of my thought process was to treat this section down here like a line of bushes, and then everything above kind of just ignore some of these like little lines and potentially put some clouds in there to kind of go over them. um yeah, so the way it was drawn kind of threw me off because these trees don't really look like they're in like any kind of like leaves or anything like that. But I'm gonna have to make some interpretation um on this one. And I think I have, if I saved them. Do 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 do. So yeah, I think that's gonna be um kind of where I start. And I think I'm actually going to use my Neocolor 2s for um to base with, and then bring in some colored pencils. So I'm just gonna kind of, let's see, do I have a lighter blue? I'm just gonna kind of start here, and we're gonna do what we usually do and kind of wing it. Hey Pam, how are you? Yeah, some of these like lines in the back here are kind of throwing me off, but I think I can make it work. And so I just need to get some color down on the page, and that'll kind of help me plot things out. So I'm just going to kind of put some of this lighter blue color in here first. And then I will weave in some darker blue. Oh, thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. I hope your day is going well. So yeah, it's kind of like some layered. Yeah, so a lot of these little lines I'm just going to kind of ignore for right now. And eventually I think I will probably bring in some colored pencils towards the end, but I do want to try and use um some different media on these than I usually use. Ordered the first romantic country book and had to return it. The best couple pages were cut out. Oh, I wonder if it was a used copy and somebody like just cut their pages, like they colored those and cut them out. So this is kind of throwing me here because I don't really want to draw anything in on this page because I feel like that's going to stand out a little too much. So then I've got this big, huge chunk in here. All right. I'm just going to bring my blue to about there. See, like, I would be, like, okay with buying a used book if, like, people were honest and said, hey, I cut the pages out that I colored. It's used, so it's missing some pages, but to just, like, try and pass it off like that, yeah, that's kind of crappy. All right. Did you end up ordering another copy from somebody else? Oh no. No, are you gonna erase? Not that it matters, because I'm gonna color over you with darker colors anyways. Got it from Amazon, so I just may order the newest one. Oh, that's right. She did just come out with a new book, didn't she? I thought I saw a flip through, but I haven't watched it yet. And I need to color in the Eriy books that I have before I buy any of her other books. So this is definitely like a bit of a challenge for me because I have a hard time um coloring uh in her books. See, I didn't even know that she had that like yeah, um that there was a new book out. I tried to find it too, but I'm not sure like what the name of it was. I think most of I think I have like one completed page in one of my Eriy books and then a bunch of whips because I start them and then I just don't know how to finish them. So, okay, let's go ahead and activate this and see how we go. I should have started in this corner up here as I now have to contort my wrist around. So this paper actually does handle light applications of water pretty well, which is nice. Obviously, if you super saturate the paper, it's going to buckle. But I'm trying to be really like light with my application here, and I don't want to completely drag this darker blue down into the lighter blue, but I do want a nice transition. So you can pretty much use these like you know with standard like watercolor techniques. So like wet on wet. So what I'm doing is I am starting in my lighter area and wetting this part, going up to just where the darker blue starts. And then since the paper is wet, I can clean my brush off and move a little bit of this color down into the blue and get a nice like transition between the two without dragging all of that darker color down and then completely undoing my lighter color. And because this isn't watercolor paper, I find on certain books that my neocolors come out kind of streaky. But if you kind of pounce your brush rather than just drag and go in light circles, you can kind of eliminate some of that streakiness. And then once it dries, you can always go back and add more. Or what I like to do is pull the color off of the crayon at that point and just add in a little extra where I feel like I need to fix things. But I don't use my Neo 2s very much, so I thought it would be neat to bring them out for this project. And then once we kind of go along and figure out what other supplies I might end up bringing in, I'll update the supply list. So I know it just says mixed mixed media right now, because I wasn't quite sure exactly what I was going to be using, and you guys kind of, I figure if you've been around long enough, kind of know that I tend to start with an idea or a loose plan, and then they kind of evolve from from there. So sometimes I might think I want to use a certain supply, and then I get into it and realize maybe that it doesn't quite suit what I'm going for, and so we change it up. Pounce, yes. So you don't want to like scrub the neo color across the paper. So, and you don't want your brush like super saturated either. Like I'm working in little circles and I'm barely touching the paper. But then once it's damp, I can kind of push the neo color around like I would with watercolor. And it makes the transitions a little nicer. See, like right here, I'll probably go in and I'll add some more of the darker color to make this kind of line up a little bit better. Although what I could do is pick a little bit of it up from over here. And then your first layer is kind of like your base layer. And you kind of have to let it dry and avoid going back over the top and trying to smooth everything out, because then you'll just wreck the paper. Oh, and also, pro tip, you can use the Neo colors if you scribble them on like a palette or something, and then pick them up off of the palette with your brush. If you don't have a palette, the inside of the tray here, if you have one of the larger tins like this, the inside of the tray here also makes a good makeshift palette. So I'm gonna try and get majority of like my base layers down before cat feeding time, and then we'll see where we are at. And I may have to hit this with the heat tool just to make sure it's dry. Okay, now let me see what I have for this is definitely gonna be a trust the process type of project here. Although I feel like that's the majority of what we do on this channel. Let's see. I use, what are you? Raw umber. Do I have a burnt umber? Hmm. Okay, let's see how this goes. So I think like on some of these areas right here, it'll probably be easier to get the effect I'm looking for if I just use the colored pencils. But that will come later. Working in an entirely different book, however, watching a creative background is super helpful. I always chicken out when it comes to backgrounds. I struggle with backgrounds. So this is a bit of a challenge. But I'm just trying to tell myself this is just the base layers and I can absolutely go in and do more fine detail work with pencils when I'm done. and we're just playing and experimenting and enjoying the process. And using a supply that we don't use very often. I don't know why why I'm starting in the middle when I should just start from the left to the right. Because now I gotta wait for this to dry to do the other side. So this section here, is this a black? You are not the black. You are the black. Because it is behind our little friend here, see, I'm gonna have to go in with pencil for this part. And I don't want to get too close to her face. So I kind of my thought was, now if I was doing this as like a real like nighttime scene, a lot of this would be like the foreground part would be like super dark, and I don't want to lose all of the detail. So I had kind of made up my own little like story for these two characters that um they're camping in their backyard. So if I light some of the foreground a little bit so that we can see some of the details, it's because they've got like the house lights in the foreground are on. So if they need to come inside, they can see to get inside. So their outdoor lights are on. So like we're still gonna have the little fire and whatnot here, and I'm gonna put some lighting inside their little tent, but that gave me a plausible like explanation for how I was going to color my foreground elements so that I could still have the detail that I wanted. Okay, I'm going to turn the book upside down for a minute so I can work on this side over here and not put my hand in what I have already done. And then that should put us up to kitty lunchtime. So I'll take a quick break and go give the cats their lunch. And we'll um give this a bit to dry. And then we'll come back and try and figure out what we're going to do with the trees. I think that looks kind of like the color scheme of it looks kind of cool. And it's not bleeding through. So it should be pretty easy when it dries to go over it with the pencils. Just got a couple areas here I'm going to try and smooth out. Okay. I'm going to leave it like that for right now. Although I'm looking at this space up here and trying to figure out what. Okay, I think I'm gonna commit to this area in here and just do it like the rest of the sky, so I am gonna do that real quick. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to go feed the cats and let this dry and then come back and we will see where we were at. Okay, I'm back. Cats have been fed. Guinea pigs have been. Guinea pig has been medicated, and I have a hot beverage, so. Okay, so I'm gonna hold off on the trees for right now. And I think I'm going to shift gears and try and do some of the lighting on the tent here. And I'm kind of going to approach this the same way that I did with the ink tents in the Kirby, on the Kirby page that we did, where I laid down the base color and then just did a really light pencil coloring over top of it to show the color of the object. So you still get that sense of, hey, this is a rock with light shining on it. It is gray, but it has light shining on it. So that's kind of what I'm going to do with this, I think. So I want it to be like there's like a lantern on the inside. Hey, Mrs. French, how are you? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, this was what you guys chose for our community page this month. So that is what we are doing. How's your day going? Ooh, we're procreating today? Oh, that that didn't sound right. We are Oh, that Oh my god, you guys, stream's done. We're out. Oh man, as soon as that left my mouth, I was like, oh, that uh let me let me take a moment. Still struggling since your dog became paralyzed as like a newborn. Got a changing station with slings that helped quite a bit, and we've got an appointment to have him measured for a wheelchair. Oh. That's always a rough situation. Our she wasn't completely paralyzed, but our pug had mobility issues with her rear legs, and yeah, it's difficult to navigate. Thanks for making me fall off the sofa laughing. Well, I'm glad to be of service. Finally learn how to use it properly, so you're doing birds and cats and Procreate for the 100-day project. Nice. I need to get back in there as well. I haven't worked in Procreate in a while, and I'm sure there's been a bunch of things that have changed since the last time I used it. Too many things I want to do, so little time. Yeah, I feel you on that one. I want to paint more, but it's kind of. I don't really have much space on my desk. And so, because I am a slow painter and I take my time, when I have the paint stuff out on my desk, it takes up the entire desk. And then I have to move it if I'm doing like non-painting projects for stream. Yeah, I was just about to ask that. I know they were hoping that it was not going to be permanent. And I forget what exactly happened. Was it an injury or? Had a disc rupture in his spinal cord and his back legs when had surgery, and there's a 50-50 chance he would walk again. And at our 6-week checkup, they said 5%. Oh, that's... He's a small dog, too, right? And I'm guessing now as a result, he's, incontinent. 15-pound cotton de also does not have control of his bowels. We're hoping that the back wheels where he can get him outside will help bring that back. It'll definitely make it easier. It'll take him a little time to get used to the wheelchair. You just gotta take it real slow, and don't expect him to be in it for like hours at a time. You start with a few minutes at a time, even if it's just him, sitting in it and not moving. But once he gets used to it and realizes that it'll help him to be able to get around, I think when it comes to stuff like that with our animals, we take it a lot harder than they do. And, we just gotta remember that they adapt. I worried about, when Luso had all of his teeth removed, like how was that gonna go? And I think it affected me a lot more than it affected him. Once his mouth healed up, he went back on dry food. I guess I had it in my mind that he wouldn't be able to eat dry food again, and he prefers it. Yeah, and that's coming from somebody who has dealt with more than their fair share of animal ailments and surgeries and recoveries and you name it, and I've probably dealt with it. Yeah, my I don't want to say expertise, but my knowledge lies in rabbits, guinea pigs, cats, and dogs. I've been through um bladder stones, both with guinea pigs and with one of our cats. And the cat ended up needing to have a procedure called a perineal urethrostomy, where they basically cut back the genitals to create a wider urinary opening through the abdomen. because he obstructed and we couldn't get it under control with just diet and fluids. Um, Ellie, our pug, had was about had we had her for a year? Yeah, I can't remember how long after we brought her home, but she actually yeah, it is a huge surgery. He basically had to be sequestered for almost 2 weeks afterwards. It's definitely not something that you want them to like lick at until it heals, because they could do catastrophic damage. Um, but yeah, so we had that. I lost a guinea pig to a kidney stone. Um, he didn't make it to surgery. Our pug had two eye surgeries as a baby to repair a lacerated cornea, as a result of an accidental injury from the cat. We thought she was going to lose her eye. Um, I have lost two pugs to seizures, so I am familiar with neurological issues as well. And Ellie had, they call it rear leg ataxia. She had a congenital defect in the last bone of her spine that compressed some nerves to her back end. She had no qualms about, like, she didn't know there was anything different. She got around, she got up and down stairs, she could get on and off the furniture. But we dealt with, the incontinence and all of that fun stuff. And then the year before we lost her, and we still never figured it out, and in the end it probably was something neurological. But older dogs are sometimes prone to what do they call it? It's like a old dog, like vestibular disease, and it comes on incredibly sudden, no warning. And a lot of times there's no other, like, there's no issues with their ears or anything that would cause it. And I think a lot of people just assume at that point that it's like seizures, and opt for letting their pet go. But we nursed her through it, and she spent like 6 months on anxiety meds. Like, it was awful. I was back and forth to the emergency vet. I don't even know how many times with her. And they pretty much tried to just tell me, oh, it's in her brain, you should just let her go, and I refused. um and then this was actually before, this was a couple years ago. She and I were out walking, and she got attacked by a larger dog that escaped its yard, and ended up having extensive surgery to repair. I didn't know this about like dog fights. Is a lot of times what happens is externally it looks superficial, so you might find like a couple like puncture wounds or some scratches or whatnot. But especially if there's bites involved, a lot of times yeah, um, yeah, I think you probably saw the pictures. But a lot of times what ends up happening is people just assume like it's, from the outside, okay, it looks okay, we can just clean this up and monitor it. But the infection builds up on the inside. And because when dogs bite, they shake. So all of the major damage is actually internal. So because Ellie was about 12 pounds and this dog that attacked her was like 3 times her size, he basically had her rib cage from top to, it's hard to explain. So if this is her, like Ellie's back, her top, and so her rib cage would be like here, and he basically, his mouth clamped down on like her shoulder blade in the bottom of her rib cage. And so when we finally managed to get him off of her and the neighbor came out and grabbed their dog, and I took her home, like we called the sheriff obviously. Um and she had a puncture mark on her, like on her shoulder, and that was the only thing that I saw at that point. And she seemed okay. I called our vet, and my plan was to take her in the next morning and have her evaluated. And by I'd say midnight that night, she started like she was incredibly restless, and I could tell that she was in pain. And so I ended up taking her to the emergency vet, and that was when they kind of explained to me, like, no, you did the right thing bringing her in, because they put a probe inside the puncture wound, and then they found another one in her armpit, and explained to me, like, hey, it's a tiny, like the size of the head of a nail, on the outside, but on the inside, I think one of them was, the damage extended about 7 centimeters out from the puncture wound, and then the one in her armpit was like maybe like 3 millimeters. And so, they said we need to go in and clean everything out and put in a drain, and all of that stuff. So she had like major surgery, and when they shaved her side to do the surgery, they said that they're like, she's incredibly lucky, and the fact that she was like up and about after it happened, because her whole side was covered in bite marks and bruises. She literally looked like somebody had pummeled her rib cage. And so from shoulder blade to armpit, they had to open her up and go in and like flush everything out, and stitch her inside, and then she had a drain for a week. It was horrible. Um, and thankfully, the like I went and talked to the neighbor, and I showed her the pictures, and I said, this is what your dog did to my dog, and I would like you to pay to reimburse me for the vet bills. Like, I had to take her to an emergency clinic at midnight, and her homeowner's insurance did end up covering it. I had to, submit pictures and all that stuff, um and they ended up paying for it, thankfully. But yeah, so we had that little dog, let me tell you, had been through it, and to ultimately like lose her in the end 3 days after she had surgery for a mast cell tumor was horrible. And then our cat, he had cancer in his jaw, and so nursing him through that. And most of my current animals have some kind of medical issue, not to kill the vibe of the chat, but yeah, I probably should have gone to veterinary school. Or at least, maybe vet tech school, but I don't think I would be able to deal with the people. But hopefully your buddy adjusts. Hopefully he is able to regain some function in his back end, and he'll adjust to the wheelchair. Come back as one of my animals. Oh man. A couple of them would probably tell you to run away. I've got two on mental health, behavioral health like medications. One's on Prozac and one's on another type of medication. Um, one of them, um, he's got something called eosinophilic granuloma complex. So some kind of autoimmune like allergy to something. We don't know what. Um, but he's on a special prescription food. He gets cyclosporine every other day. He's on regular gabapentin and an anxiety medication, and he also has suspected IBS, so he gets laxative daily, or else he won't poop, and it is just a horrible, miserable miser. Um, and then I have one that has feline asthma, and then I have one that has hyperthyroidism. And a guinea pig that has well, currently he's being treated for mites. That's our newest thing. And he was diagnosed with arthritis, so now he's on pain medication for the rest of his time. So my kitchen counter looks like a pharmacy. But, I brought them into my home. I took on the responsibility, and they will get the best that I can do for them. It's a lot. Totally did not mean to like segue or take away from, what's going on with your buddy or to kill the vibe of the chat. Let's see. Do we want a little bit of this? Let's try this. Gabapentin and trazodone. Trazodone is a hell of a drug. That's the the heavy hitters. Oh, thank you. I'm actually really liking how this is coming out. I am honestly thinking that for this part, um, for the 10, I might not do a whole lot of pencil work on this, except for the banners, maybe. I I might just leave this with the Neo colors. And then I'm trying to decide whether or not, cuz my I don't want to say fear. Um cuz I was thinking about doing a lot like doing the a lot of the smaller like details in the kids with just colored pencil, but I'm afraid that the it'll look too different from the rest of it if I just do colored pencil on them. So now I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to commit to a neo color base for pretty much everything, and then just keep the pencil work for details, just so that it looks cohesive. Because I don't know if you were here earlier when I kind of talked about my story for this page. I kind of toyed around with whether or not I wanted to do like a dark night sky, whether or not I wanted to do like a sunrise or a sunset. And then I was thinking, if I did it as a night sky, just from like looking at all of the reference photos and whatnot, everything else would be really dark, even in the foreground. And I was afraid I would lose a lot of the little like details and stuff on like the kids. And so I kind of came up with this idea that they're camping in their backyard. It's like a brother and sister, and they're just camping out in their backyard. And so um if I choose to keep the kind of the foreground a little more lit instead of going with like a darker, like truly night type of color palette. So I had it in my head that I'm going to um pretend that like there's a light on, like a porch light or some outdoor lighting from the house. So if the kids need to come back inside, they can see to get back inside. So that's my justification for not like doing a whole bunch of like harsh lighting. Cause yeah, I was looking at pictures, like nighttime pictures of people camping, like sitting around a like a campfire, and it's a lot of dark background, and the only light in the foreground would be like from the fire. But this is a tiny little fire, so it's not gonna put out like a big, huge thing of light, and it would end up making everything around it very like orange and brown, and I wasn't quite sure that that was the vibe that I wanted to go for. um I'm kind of thinking more like children's book illustrative, like watercolor style. Yeah, I really regret not using these more. I don't know if I just, because I struggle with backgrounds, if I was just intimidated by not being able to get them um to look the way I felt like they should look. And so I don't know if some of it is come from um because I've been painting more, that I feel a little more comfortable with them. I don't know, or if it's just, you know, my my vision and my skill set has changed. But I just always like felt intimidated by the Neo 2s. I'm not sure why. 'Cause I mean, I know Erica over at Elm Colors uses hers quite a bit, and I'm always just, blown away by what people do with them. I just never felt like confident with them myself. I guess too, I'm just kind of telling myself that like this could be just a base, and if I don't like the way it looks, then I can just use pencil to add in any details that I want. Um so it doesn't need to be like perfect. Like I know I'm going to go in and do some pencil work on uh on these areas just to kind of add some visual separation between uh some of these, like the bushes, and down here at the bottom. And you can actually reactivate some of these, which I highly recommend letting it dry first to see maybe where you need to smooth things out and then go back in and touch it up, because if you keep trying to do it while it's wet, it's just going to pill the paper. It's like I actually, let's see how this. Okay, so I might do a little pencil work on this. Mostly just like up in some of these shadow areas where I don't feel like I can get quite the depth that I want. But for the most part, I'm pretty content with And I actually don't mind some of the lines being a little like harsh. Okay. And give that a minute. Let's see. Okay, so this is going to be darker on the edges. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing that I did with these back here. This is definitely one of those like trust the process type of so let me Okay, so I need do I have Okay, let's see how we go here. Kind of locked in. Wasn't even in the kitchen for long, and there's a foreground. I know, but we're gonna try and finish the at least the foreground, the base on the foreground, and then that might be where we end today, so that we can stretch this project out a little bit and do the detail work next week. Because I don't want to finish it all in one. And that'll be good because that's about my like my um where I need to like stop and step away from the project limit. I and then come back to it and kind of reassess. Plus this is a lot of like wet crayon. Give people time to yeah, yeah. Okay, that's definitely gonna need some work, but it's pretty wet right now, and I think I'll be able to see better once it dries exactly where I want to touch up, and then I can kind of figure out um what what I'm gonna do or with the kids, and then I need to figure out what this is, if this is part of, kind of looks like part of the tent, but also it doesn't. So I don't know if it's the back part of that stick back there. And then some of these like smaller elements are really just easier to just color the whole thing a base color and then use the colored pencils to add in the accent color like on these rocks, because the whole thing wouldn't be like lit up like that. So I will probably go in with like a gray colored pencil on those and just some of the smaller details. Like the goal is I would like to keep the base um pretty neo colorish, and I might do some of the touch up work like on the sky and whatnot up here off camera between now and next week, but I won't do anything like extensive to it. It'll probably just be some cleanup work on what's already down on the page. And then I gotta figure out what I want to do um with the trees. I think those are largely gonna be black. And then I'll have to do some definitely some work to smooth some of these transitions out down here. So I might do a little bit of that off camera. Um but yeah, it's pretty damp right now, and I actually think that's a pretty good place to stop. Let me move this so you guys can get a better look. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. So, I'm pretty pleased with how things are looking on this one so far. Obviously needs some work, but I really like I like the color palette. I love the the oranges and the reds and the browns in the tent, the way they contrast with the colors I chose for the sky. Um I think it really adds some pop to it. So, yeah, and I was honestly anticipating this project taking longer than two streams, but we may be able to finish this next week. We'll have to see how it goes, and then I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of the month. But we'll try and spread it out, and we'll do little bits at a time. Maybe the streams will be a little bit shorter, which I think if I think like you said, Sonia, that'll be good, because then if people are actually like following um if people are following along and coloring the page themselves, then they can kind of, catch up. Um so maybe that's kind of how we approach this, is shorter streams, a little more condensed, and so it's a little easier to follow, and we can kind of, stretch the project out a little bit, um because um Yeah, and then the end of this month, Kirby's new book comes out, so our first project for April will be out of Kirby's new book. And worst comes to worst, if I can get if I can get this project to two more streams, and I'm left with maybe coming up with having to figure out what to do for like one final stream of the month, um maybe we just paint for that last stream of the month. I just work on something in the sketchbook. I know the painting streams don't generally do as well, um but yeah, maybe that's what we'll do. We'll try and do two more shorter streams of this to finish it up, and then the last stream of the month it'll just be a freebie. It'll just be whatever. I'll work on something in a sketchbook. I actually have a couple more sketchbooks I ordered to try out. I really like, let me show you guys um where I'm at. I'm almost done with it, but I had to put it aside for a little bit. But let me show you the pizza that I'm working on. So yeah, really not a whole lot left to do on this, just like detail work and touch-ups, and then I should be able to take the tape off. But I actually ordered a couple more of these. I think, let me make sure that they're both Hana Mule. I think they're both. Do 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 do. I'm just trying to make sure I ordered which ones I ordered. Yes, so they're both, I ordered two new the Hana Mule sketchbooks. That's what brand this is. And this is the landscape with the tone tan paper. And I ordered, they have a square format, which I really like the square sketchbooks. Um so I ordered a square of the tone tan, and then I ordered a square of the one of their just white paper sketchbooks. But I really like the paper in this. Um, I prefer hot press, and this is more of a hot press paper in here. And there's something about the the toned paper that is way less intimidating to paint on than white paper. And this is Holbein artist gouache. So this is the watercolor, water reactivated version of the gouache. I do have some acrylic gouache that I want to use as well. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun with this. It's been neat to play around with. So, but yeah, I'm thinking that sounds like a good plan. So we'll do two more streams to finish up our community choice project, and then we'll paint for the last Tuesday. We'll just either start I'll start something, or we'll just wing it, and I'll paint fruits and vegetables of something. We'll just play with gouache. It's I am going to have a hard time going back to any of my more student grade gouache. Obviously, like I'm going to use the paint. I have it, I want to use it, but this is the first piece that I've done using like professional grade gouache, and oh my god, it's expensive paint, and I see why, but the experience has been, I don't want to say stressful's not the right word. Um it's been a lot smoother. I find it much easier to get better consistencies of the paint. It's much easier to like to mix. Do I have it in a haul video? I think I showed off um a couple of them in my last haul video. So some of these are gouache paint sets that I've had for a while and just haven't had the courage to use. Um and then I had two of these, the Iridori sets, and then I got the other two sets to go with it. So I showed these off, two of them off in a haul, and then not last week, the week before, um the last live stream that I did, we swatched my acrylic gouache. And that was, I think, what was it, like 4 different sets of acrylic gouache, a couple Holbein sets, and some Turners. So that's on the channel. But the acrylic gouache is you can't re-wet that. So you can thin it with water to paint with it, but once it dries, that's it. But I didn't swatch the artist gouache on camera. We just took a look at it in a haul video, a couple of them. So it's like I'll show them off, but I mean, you guys know how I feel about swatching, especially doing it in videos. I mean, the acrylic gouache definitely needed to be done, but I'd rather just do some of that off camera and just use the stuff for you guys and talk through my like my process like while I'm using it. I just feel like that's more the way I prefer to work, and a lot of times even if I swatch my stuff, I just wing it. I just eyeball my colors, literally watching paint dry. I obviously understand why it's important, and especially with paint. But like colored pencils, I am probably I I just I'm not gonna swatch my colored pencils unless I really like I start using them and I'm really like, hey, these are just not matching up with what they look like they could be. But I'd rather just use the paint and show you guys and talk about the paint while I use it, and let you guys watch me fumble through it and cry about how horrible my painting looks, and then in the end be like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. Okay. But yeah, I like that. I like that plan. So we will do our best to stretch this out into two shorter streams, and then I think, and I have not watched a full flip through of Kirby's new book. I watched maybe the first 5 minutes of Claire's video when she showed it off, because I wanted a nugget. I wanted a little bit of an idea of what it was, of what was in it, but I didn't want to see the whole thing because I want to be surprised. But I also checked out Kirby's pre image, like his preview images that he shared, and I think from what I saw, that there might be a Wizard of Oz page in the book. If I don't see what else it could be, but it clearly looked like a tornado in a house being flung around. So if that is the case, I will tell you guys right now, that will probably be the first page that we do, because I already have an idea of how I want to color it. And it seems like a lot of the pages are double page, so you get like the introduction to the fairy tale, and then there's two parts to it. And actually one of them that I saw was actually like 3 pages. So it was a double page and then a single. So I'm hoping that I'm not incorrect about that, and that it actually is a Wizard of Oz. And if it is, that there's another page that goes with it. And if that's the case, that would actually, I will do that whole spread throughout the month of April. And that will be our April project. And I'll just stretch it across the whole month. So hopefully, I mean, either way, we're going to color something in that book. But I've kind of already got it in my head which page I would like to do. Um so I'm pretty excited about that. And obviously I will do a flip through of it. I also need to, oh, excuse me. I also need to start working on a couple other projects. Like I need to start figuring out like videos and things like that, especially since I opened up um memberships. It's just really difficult. Like I'll be transparent with you guys. The last video that I did for Erica's hashtag, um I was really happy with the that project and the way the page turned out, but it gets real demotivating when you spend a month and a half on a project and the editing of it and it flops. Like that, honestly, as hard as it, as much as I try and tell myself that's just the way things go, that is, it's definitely a gut punch when that happens. And it's kind of like, why am I, aside from, wanting to, I obviously I want to put content out, but it's um what do you mean it flopped? Uh it got very few views. And so it's hard to like do, like, what was it, just the format of it, like what, like, yeah, it didn't go anywhere. And um not the first time it's happened, and it won't be the last. But yeah, that's a little tough to come back from. So I do have a couple ideas for some smaller tutorials. I'm just having a hard time balancing things out between my housewife responsibilities and the channel. So, but I do need to figure out some other projects, so I will be working on some other things in addition to what we've got going on here. So, yeah. But it was like I did it was I want to say 5 to 6 hours of footage. I spent quite a bit of time cutting it down, and then I released the extended cut uh to to members, and then I did a sped up version with a voiceover and released that to everybody. So there's two different versions of it. It just, yeah, it's it's tough to figure out like what works and what works consistently. So, but anyways, I think that's going to be, yeah. That's going to be where we leave this page today. So, I will be around throughout the rest of the week and hopefully working on some other projects, but I think we got a good game plan for the rest of the month and into April. So, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I super appreciate it. I'm really glad you guys picked this page because Sonia and I were talking. I have a hard time coloring in Eriy's books. I have a hard time coming up with like, you know, a solid vision for these pages. I don't know what it is, but um yeah, I'm glad we went with an Eriy book this month. I'm really enjoying it so far. I like the way it looks. We just take it a piece at a time. So I'm looking forward to getting back into it with you guys next week. So thank you all. Appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one.